So today's December 1st. It's about 7:05 p.m. and we're going to get going. Albion Cultural Exchange meeting. Meeting minutes went out several weeks ago. Everybody should have had the opportunity to take a look at them. I took a look at them. They seemed like they were all right. I didn't like micro in on them. Meeting minutes. Anybody have any questions or any comments? Make a motion to approve those minutes.
You can do no video.
What's that? I heard something. No, I don't see her.
She's muted.
All right. So meeting minutes, basically make a motion to approve the meeting minutes, assuming that nobody has any objections to approving the previous meeting minutes and everyone's had the opportunity to read them and had them now for at least several weeks. So all those in favor, raise your hand, say aye, something to that effect. All right. So previous meeting minutes are now approved. Going into number 2, building maintenance. I collapsed a lot of things into here to just try to make it easy so that we could just sort of bang through it. One item that's going away, the first item that's on here is the front projection sign, the spotting adjustment. I had the sign people down there, Sardella and his guy on the bucket truck, and we fixed the sign in front of the building. And so that's pretty groovy. It's the problem, in case you don't remember, was when you turned on Albion Street and looked up at our sign, you got hit with the spotlight, which was supposed to be shining on the backside of the sign, and it was pointed up too high. So when you went to look at our sign, you got it right in the eyes. So we basically just had them tweak it down about a quarter turn on both sides. So now the sign is lit up, pretty nice on both sides. And when you hook the corner, there's still a little bit that can kind of get you in the eye, but it's as best as it's going to be. The improvement is great. So I think the sign looks great. The lighting on it looks better. When you come around the corner, it doesn't get in your eye. So this item of front projection sign spotting needs to be adjusted. Outside of any comments, can finally leave our agenda. Also, the new streetlights were installed within the last week. And as you may recall, the streetlight was moved from in front of our building to the next building over, or sort of like in between. The new streetlights were on delay for quite a long time. They've shown up. They're pretty attractive looking. I may have sent certain people a picture of them. The light got turned on, I think 3 days ago, but it looks really cool. It kind of comes over the street now instead of just being super tall and lighting everything up and kind of washing it out. So I think everything's looking pretty good. So the front projection sign spotting is all taken care of, and the street light has been installed. Does anybody have any questions on that or comments? All right, seeing none, I'll keep going. On November 6th, I had Busy Dog, which is Basement Technologies Group, come in and take a look at the basement in our facility. As everybody knows, we've had water for quite a long time. And so the idea behind the Busy Dog people coming in was to have them take a look at the basement, figure out the water issues. We've had this conversation with many people along the way. These guys are experts in the field. This is what they do. So I called them in for an evaluation because it's free. And then the other thing is that the expectation is, as we've finished some major stuff and we've got some other major construction stuff on the horizon, the anticipation is this will be a big, maybe a medium ticket or a big ticket item. I don't really know. I would guess that probably, this is a guess because I don't know what the hell I'm talking about, which is why we brought the experts in. 40, 50 grand at least to figure out what's going on down there. The guy came in, he was super knowledgeable. We went around the basement, we walked around, and he pointed out and all the dribs and drabs and the things that we don't understand, and the colors and the concrete and stuff from damage in the past. He knew everything that he was talking about. He was really well informed. He did say that it is something that needs attention. It has been given attention at various points in the past, as you could tell by pointing out some of the things that have been done. The idea is that downstairs probably needs sort of like a drain going around the perimeter, and that would be where they sort of kick out the concrete in the walls. They sort of dig it up, put in some rocks and some drainage stuff to allow the water table to breathe, and sort of progress around the bottom of the basement and then do sort of like a resurface, refinish kind of thing. That's an extremely simplified version of what was said. So lots of pictures were taken. People are looking at it just to try to figure out, what a potential fix is, what makes sense. A couple other engineers have been called just to even, really diagnose, what's going on there appropriately. He didn't seem super concerned. He was very impressed that our foundation was very thick, and said that things had been done in the past and it wasn't any kind of catastrophic situation. It was just merely the age of the building and that maintenance and stuff needs to happen. It all has to do with hydrostatic water flow, which is why the water's coming in on the basement. But he didn't seem to think that there was anything really crazy beyond hydrostatic water flow and proper basement maintenance, which hadn't been done in a while. So really just the summation of that is we're still working on checking it out and trying to get information as to what their thoughts are on it. I know that he's called in, the guy from Basement Technologies has called in this guy who's like the chief engineer for the city of Lawrence or something, and has some sort of expertise, and somebody else to write us a report. So my hope is that in a month or two, they will provide me with a report that is an assessment of what's going on in the basement. This becomes important for a lot of reasons, and one of them, Joy and I were talking about this the other day, is that with our gallery space being the way it is, it's not really a workspace as we've used it in the past. It's more, we're looking towards our master plan, which is MAPC stuff of probably classrooms downstairs or something like that, and using the facility downstairs. We've had communications with the building inspector that just one of the details of with one entrance to downstairs, we currently have two. We can have up to 50 people down there safely and under code. We've also looked at some options on the back stairwell with doing things like lifts. And if we had our basement waterproofed appropriately, a lift, could probably be had for less than $20,000, maybe 5 to 10. That could bring people up and down. So that could make the basement level classroom available and ready sometime maybe in a year or two. If we get our basement waterproofed and get a little bit of money to do a little bit of refinishing and can put in a lift, we could open up classroom space, in the basement. And then there's other options for going upstairs. But the summary of it is basically that the basement is being evaluated, and hopefully I should have a report for the team here in a month or two.
Great. That's all good stuff, moving us in the right direction.
All right. And then the other thing on that too is that when you need, chunks of money like that, and for this sort of specific thing, right now is a good time to get that report, because town meeting in the spring and the annual town budget process starts at the beginning of December, and they figure out all the monies for next year. So let's say it was 40 or 50 grand. Let's say that number is somehow right, and I somehow actually knew something there. That's something that we could ask for an allocation in next year's town budget. It could even go in the DPW budget, where it wasn't like a town meeting item. It just kind of became part of the overall town maintenance. But in order to do that, we have to have the information. So does anyone have any questions on that? All right, seeing none, I'll keep going. The bank building next door, there's been an ownership change, ongoing conversations with the town administrator. We had conversations yesterday, conversations this morning about some things, actually about a lot of different things that we're doing here, which are all very positive and very good. We don't have any new information on what the bank wants to do. We do know that they want to do something. The sale, I believe, is closed on that like a month or two ago. And Santander is still in there. They're going to end up going to their new building across the street from the Civic Center. And eventually there's going to be some sort of transition with that. So as we look at our accessibility funding and various paths to success of our accessibility off the back, which we made a stab at a year or two ago, we need to talk to the owners of the new building and just be very neighborly and try to work together. There's a good chance that they're going to need some zoning relief, and there's a good chance that we're going to need some good negotiations to do some of the things that we need to do to make that happen. Still ongoing conversations with the bank, nothing really new to report. That's just sort of a summary of where things are at and has been previously reported in the last month or two. Does anybody have any questions about the bank building behind us or any of that interaction? Okay. Future lift, we touched on that. We've got some grants, we've got some stuff. You know, it looks likely that there's various price ranges anywhere, like I said, from 5 to 10 to 25. Something that needs to be focused in on once some other milestones are reached. Really just a placeholder for future agendas to, you know, keep that updated with the busy dog stuff. Does anybody have any questions on the lifts or any of that lift type stuff that I've talked about in the last 5 minutes? Okay. Rear of the building, the rear building.
But wait a minute. I just want to ask though, so are we off the elevator?
I wouldn't say that that's a yes or that's a no. I'd say that we're looking at alternatives. And are we off the elevator? Well, we don't have $500,000. So, but are we off the elevator?
Yeah.
No. I mean, we're still evaluating stuff. We haven't come up with an elevator plan. I think that is reasonable.
Does the lift go to the second floor?
The lift would, these are 1-floor lifts. So what would happen is you'd have like a lift if you went in the back door, kind of where the stairwell is now.
So it goes to the basement.
Yeah, there would be a basement there. There's also
So it doesn't go to the second floor though.
Well,
no, not in the current configuration with the way the building is.
That's all I wanted to. I just wanted to make a note of that it might help us go down, but it doesn't help us go up.
Now, but to that note, there are other lifts, and it really just depends on where, you know, in the future master planning of sort of next phase of stuff that goes on. That's not now, but maybe in 4 or 5 months, where we're talking about some things. You know, we can talk about, you know, which way it makes sense to go. It appears financially that it makes more sense to try to go to the downstairs, but this is something we're just doing research on so that we have all the information to make an informed decision.
Because I personally feel like it would be easier to move forward with the studio spaces than the classroom spaces. But that's just a thought for future.
Okay.
Yeah, so we can, I think moving forward, Joy, we could definitely note that. And I think once we have, you know, we have ballparks on how much it is to get from the first floor to the second floor, or even from the basement to the second floor, sorry. But having information about, you know, what the basement viability is, and knowing that the lift from the basement to the first floor might be relatively short money, those are all factors for us as we start to look to the future, and we can, from a planning perspective, it would be so awesome to be able to do studio space. I think that that's such a huge nut at this point.
But I just think it's less of a nut than redesigning the whole downstairs for a classroom space.
Yeah, let's find out. Yeah, all those are.
Yeah, I mean, being someone that's been inside on all the numbers, I disagree on that, but I'm willing to get all the numbers out there and have the numbers tell the story.
Okay.
Yeah, agreed. Yep.
Any more questions on lifts? Okay. Right now, so the next one on here is the view from the rear. This is this talks view from rear now visible. Discuss gels to get the disguise and blur the outside. So we sent out an email. We played around with a little bit of an idea with some gels. The feedback that came back from it was there was people that were concerned about light, color, and distortion in the gallery, which which we heard. There's also, or which I'm communicating to everybody so that you guys can hear it. So we heard that gels on the rear room there, the rear operations room. That might make more sense depending on if the conversation goes further as far as. Like I said, there was some resistance. The idea behind these gels were, one, that they look funky and cool and we're an art center and that would be cool. But the other thing was more like, now with the rear lights being on, we can see through there and it changes the dynamic in the gallery. Whereas we used to look at a black kind of disappearing kind of thing. Now it's all lit up and you see the bank building. So I think people have varying opinions as to how offensive or not offensive the consequence of getting lights in the back is. We looked at the gel thing. I don't really have a lot to report on that, other than we looked at it, we played around with it. It's not anything that I see getting immediate attention like right now, but maybe in the next 6 months, if we want to spend a little more time and play around with it, we could. But I'd like to open up the floor for anybody that wants to talk about that. Does anybody want to talk about window gels at all?
I think, you know, it would be great that if we had enough events, nighttime events in there, that we started to find that the you know, the rear lights coming in through those windows was you know, distracting and, you know, unnecessary. So I think we keep it out there as a topic. We see how it develops. We continue to look for other ideas. Yeah, I would prefer more subdued tones, I think, to not compete maybe with some of the other, you know, the art and the color in the building, but, you know, definitely something to pursue.
And the problem before we had the lighting back there is that if we have a show in the spring, when the sun is setting, the sun does come in through that back window and kind of blind the gallery. So I'm more interested in, like, does the gel block the light, or like, is it blocking, is it going to block the sunlight, or is it just color that's blocking out the ugly bank? We'll have to look at it in the, you know, especially in the spring.
Yeah, or does it
coming up
actually
with-
throw color into the gallery? That's an interesting lights coming from the outside. That's interesting. I hadn't thought of that.
It's definitely something that we have to play around with.
Yep.
Any more questions or comments about gels? Okay. So next item we have here is we've got the painting of our rear room lined up, the back hallway and the front hallway. So this is the back room, which we held off. Someone just show up. This is the back room that we held off on a painting. We rushed into the square show and everything else to just try to get stuff done at that point, and so we didn't get the back finished. So the back room painting is lined up. I'm waiting to hear back from the DPW business manager on that. We've got all the info together for that. Also, the rear hallway and stairs. We've talked about that, and the front hallway, the front stairwell that goes upstairs with the new lights on. You can start to see some of their peeling paint. So the painters got a package together to sort of remedy that stuff. And then the countertops, they're painting. We rushed everybody out of there to get these last couple shows in, and now we need to finish off the stuff that we're doing. So we need to get that back room painted. And then the countertops, we need to finish the countertops. They basically have primer on them now. And primer was way better than what it was because we didn't have a contract to paint them before. So there was that dark brown, nasty stuff. So we managed to get a coat of primer on there, or, kudos to Jamie Dean for spending, like 2 weekends in there getting primer and doing that on her own time. So she got that ready so that Arts Collaborative and Nimble Thimblers could have, countertops painted. But it's just primed. So when the guy comes through to paint it, either he'll do it or Jamie and I will get back and just finish the paint job. So painting's pending. Other thing that's pending in our queue right now, the lights for the rear just got painted. And then I don't know if it's further down on the agenda, but I'll just speak of it now since it's coming to my mind. Our lights, our track lighting, we had managed our budget forward and backward just to make sure we'd make it. We had gone from 50 lights to 40 lights during the process. 37 lights actually showed up. And so our spec was for 50 lights. And so the order has gone into the light vendor to get 13 more lights to go back to exactly where our spec was, since the money's there. And that should be happening in the next couple of weeks. We also have like a dozen extra light bulbs, just so that if a bulb blows, bulbs shouldn't blow for like at least a year or two, if not longer, because they're LED. But we have a handful, a dozen or so bulbs that will be on hand, so that if bulbs break, bulbs drop, we don't have to run to Home Depot every time. And all of that is being processed now. Oh yeah, there it is. Additional lights ordered to match the spec. That's the next one. Okay.
Yep, I'm typing away on that one.
Does anybody have any questions on that? Okay, so I'm going to continue working on that. Counters and snack bar counters, really don't have any estimates on that. That's still just, that's a placeholder at this point. While we work through some other things, the idea of having the snack bar counter going into the back room. I have a placeholder for an exterior events board. No real information to talk about for that. I just want to leave it on the agenda as an item. And that is, a board, like a kind of like a shadow box kind of idea to have on the front of the building so that we can have flyers and or media that talk about what we're doing for people who walk by to be able to see. And then the last thing on here, I spoke with the disabilities, what do they call themselves? It's not the Disabilities Association, it's the Committee for Disabilities Issues. And they're the ones that we liaison with for handicap type stuff, rear entrance type stuff. I spoke with them about a year ago when we were doing some different stuff in the back before our plans got updated for safety and other reasons to do the interior. And we talked about some of the things that we were doing, and they made some recommendations for color coding things and just putting up some signage and some other things for grades. But they thought that our plan and everything that we were doing is great. I'm scheduled to present at their meeting next Monday, I think it is, the 6th, December 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, next Monday, the 6th. I'll be presenting and having a communication with the Commission on Disabilities Issues and updating them as to where we are on everything that we're doing. They're pretty nice people, and I think they're going to be, very receptive to what we have going on. And I think they like the idea that, at this point, we're starting to check in with them a little bit more. And this is also, I have to present to town council at the end of January and give them an update as to what's going on. And I'm 100% sure that they're going to ask me what my latest communication is with the Disabilities Commission. They asked me last year when I gave an update. So I wanted to be prepared for that meeting and have communication with them so that when I do get asked that question at the end of January, when I present to the town council, I can speak in a clear, unified tone for all of those involved so that it doesn't end up. I think last year our report was basically pretty much everyone loved everything, but we got beat up a little bit because we hadn't talked to the Disabilities Commission. So this year when we go, we will have talked to them twice and be on a regular update schedule with them. So hopefully that will satiate anybody who's concerned that we're not, that we're not reaching out to other people. We are at this point. Does anybody have any questions about updating the town council or the disabilities issue? All right, cool. Past events review. We had a couple things happen since the last meeting. We had the Nimble Thimblers quilt thing, and we had Carolyn Lieber playing the piano a little bit on a couple Saturdays with some kids. I can speak to the Carolyn Lieber thing in that went smashingly well. And if you're into looking at cute kids playing violins and just learning music and stuff like that, I mean, it's quite the sight to see. You go in there and even if anybody that walks out of there with like the softest heart known to man, because it's just all these cute little kids and the piano's playing and they're playing their violins and doing their other stuff. And I mean, it's all the harmony and the things that you kind of want out of what we're doing. So that's I think a very, very big success. The Nimble Thimblers thing, I'll open that up to other people who might have more information. I'll say that I went to it. Everything was on the walls. They had big quilts. The quilts looked pretty good. I think they were open 2 weekends and had a decent attendance as far as I could tell. I looked over there, but the quilts are up. The quilts looked good. Everybody seemed happy, had smiles on their faces. I was there. It was actually the day, one of the days was the day that I had the basement guys there. So I was there right when they opened and we went down there. So that's my version of a past events review, but I open it up to anybody that wants to talk about the Nimble Thimblers thing or Carolyn Lieber's lessons.
For Nimble Thimblers, they did have good attendance. I think one of the evenings was less well attended, but I think during the weekend it was good. Actually having a sign and some balloons outside, that kind of thing does make a difference to get some additional foot traffic in. So, having the idea of an events board out front of the building, I think, Chris, is a great thing for us to start to pursue. It looked really good. It was so great to see another visual arts medium being leveraged in that building.
Absolutely. And that's the thing too. And you got Carolyn Lieber doing her thing. It's different. I mean, we do a lot of pictures, we do a lot of visual art, but we're trying to include musical people. We're trying to include, if you go back to our mock-ups, we even had black box theater stuff. I was having a conversation with somebody from Greater Boston Stage about maybe doing some ideas with that. As we move forward, was giving some tours yesterday. So yeah, I think the Nimble Thimblers thing looked good too. Does anybody else have any comments on the Nimble Thimblers thing or Carolyn Lieber? Okay. We had promotion go out. We had a PR piece in the item that we sent out there, did a little bit of forecasting as to what's going on, but really the most important part of the piece was to talk about, what we've done and just sort of get that information out there, get the word out there. The town council's been updated, given PR, given a bunch of other information as to what we're doing. Again, big piece in the item. I've spoken a little bit. I'd love to try to get us to get some stuff in the next 6 to 10 months. Boston Magazine, if we could convince them to come in at some point, then I don't know, that they want our current PR piece, but they're on probably a 6 to 12 month lead time schedule. I think that would be outstanding. I don't know if it's possible. North Shore Magazine might be a little bit closer of a reach. North Shore,
I was just going to suggest that.
Has a thing where so I sent press releases out to like everybody and anybody. North Shore Magazine actually has a thing. If you pay them, they'll put your press release on their website. I wasn't quite ready to do that, but I figured we're definitely in their realm. If we could get bigger than that on a regional thing, I think we've got something to show people now, especially when we've got good stuff on there. You gonna say something, Kath? Looked like you were about to say something.
I was just going to ask, how much is the North Shore thing, and if it's a funding thing, I wonder if that we could get local, some local funding or a
it's only $100. If you want a press release on the North Shore thing, it's $100.
Okay.
And that's not them writing anything. That's not getting in the magazine. That's just getting published on their website. But it's not actually a ridiculous fee because they probably get tons of press releases, and it weeds out the pack of people that really want to get their information out there. So all that stuff's out there. I've reached out and spoken with, the state senators and the state representative's office. I'm working with specifically with one of the aides at Jason Lewis's office. She's keeping me informed on a bunch of stuff. Talked through her to Jason Lewis. He's excited to come see our stuff, as is Donald Wong and Kate Garabedian. Communication with them, just letting them know what's going on, where we're at, that kind of thing. And they're all actually really happy with what we have, and they all are excited to come and see what we have going on. So that'll be a good thing. Does anybody have any questions about that?
Yeah, I do, Chris. I'm sorry. Can you recap that? So that is you solicited interaction. I'm not sure what the recap is for that one.
The recap is that I've informed the state delegation of our progress in construction and invited them to come see it.
Thank you.
Next item up, assuming there's no questions on the last stuff, is gifts and donations. Laurie Hunt, I have a press release together. It's going to go out pretty soon, if not this week, next week. The deal there is, as you recall, she was kind enough to donate us almost $1,000 Roomba, and that was based off of Doug's recommendation. Doug did the research as far as keeping the room clean. The Roomba, she bought it right away. We didn't even have to wait. I talked to her pretty regularly. She's offering to sponsor other things that we have coming up. And she sponsored us very well in the past. She is definitely a friend of the Albion Cultural Exchange. Our consistent communication with her, the state senators, other people like that, pays off. I've spoken to Laurie and asked her a bunch of times for stuff when she wasn't able to do it. And then, we had talked about the Roomba and what our needs were for that. And again, it was, close to $1,000, which is pretty significant. And, so I've talked to her a bunch of times, and then I talked to her again on one of my regularly scheduled sort of ACE promo, hey, we're buddies and we work together kind of conversations. And I mentioned to her that about the Roomba thing, and I think I had it in my house 3 hours later. So it was really fast, and it just shows that consistent communication with our donors and people that are working with us is a great thing. So there's a press release that's going to go out about that. We did press on what we had going on. I didn't want to have them go out at the same time, even though this is a couple months old. But we'll get, we'll do the right due diligence, get her on our website, get her on all those places. That's a significant donation, and it was fairly painless. So hats off to Laurie Hunt for being a friend of ACE. Does anybody have any comments on the Roomba or any of that? All right. Next up, we still have an offer out there for a Steinway piano. Need to talk about it a little bit more about it. I think we'll go over our operations thing for that. I'm going to leave that as a placeholder and just say that we have the opportunity to, acquire probably a replacement for our current piano that is, a significant asset and of significant value. I don't necessarily know that it merits any real conversation tonight, since it's not being presented in any kind of acceptance or transfer kind of mode. It's just sort of out there as an option for us. And considering that we're trying to serve the entirety of the community, meaning visual, audio, theater, all that kind of stuff, it does come underneath, sort of our guise and charter of what we do. So it's just something to have in the back of your head for future discussion. However, if anybody wants to talk about it now, feel free. All right, I'm gonna keep going. Another opportunity that I spec'd out for future discussion and opportunity is we've talked about open mic nights. We've talked about having musicians. We've talked about lots of stuff that require, a PA and professional style audio. We've talked about and some of the proposals we have tonight talk about having music. So we have art on the walls now that we have our new space, and we include music. And we've got a Sonos system, which is actually my Sonos system, which we use for audio right now. We use it with the Sonos system and the Mac that we have. And that works okay for now, but it's not the best solution. It's just better than no solution, which is what we had before. So I had BJ Wass from Onset Music. For those of you who might not be familiar, BJ, very, very successful music school guy. He runs a music school in Wakefield called Onset Music. He's been running it for, I think, the last 10 or 15 years. He used to rent space from a place that I used to do little gallery shows at. He ended up becoming too big for that and has had his own big musical schools with several stages and hundreds, if not thousands of students, has provided students for the farmers market and some other things. I brought him in to show him what we had going on and to talk about the idea of doing things in the future that would require a PA or an open mic or something like that. And he agreed and sent me some specifications for what we could do to make it so that we could do that. And there's more detail to it, but he gave me some specifications for like a PA, about how much that would cost. Some ideas about how we could do sound dampening because of the way that our building is. There could be a lot of echoes in there. And if you've been in there when we've had a lot of people in there, it can get pretty loud. So in order to do music and PAs and stuff like that, there's just a few recommendations, curtains and a few other things that do sound dampening. So there's not a lot of echo. So anyways, he sent me some information, nothing that's going to be presented in any form really tonight, other than similar to like the Busy Dog when they came in and looked at stuff. Basically, we had him look at that stuff, or I had him look at that stuff and give me his opinion and some ideas for materials that would make it so that we could do that. Just give an idea, if you wanted me to throw some numbers out there, a PA is in the range of about $2,000. And then we looked at the concept of some sound dampening curtains and stuff like that, and or the idea of having maybe like a stage that could be set up and broken down that wasn't too complicated. And so we looked at those ideas. I've got some data. Again, nothing that's being really presented tonight for any kind of issue, just we've been doing some research as far as sound systems. Does anybody have any questions on that? Last item here on gifts and donations. Hang on, sorry. Yesterday I gave Bob DeBella a tour of the ACE Gallery. For those of you who are unfamiliar, Bob is the president of the Savings Bank, He also sponsored many events at ACE. The Savings Bank has also purchased our refrigerator and freezer, was courtesy of the Savings Bank. They've made several $500 donations to various shows, including a New Beginning show last year. I talked to Bob about some stuff we're about to talk about, art and edibles for this year, Bring the Good, some other things that we want to do, the idea of sound systems, the idea of money for different things. And again, this is another one of those things, sort of like with the Disabilities Commission and other people. I'm just sort of making my yearly rounds of ongoing conversations of ombudsmanship and ambassadorship for what we're doing. And so I brought him in. He's a super guy. And he was very impressed. He was, he's happy to continue to support us. He's also on the board of directors of Main Streets. And he's also on the board of directors of the Stoneham Theater, Greater Boston Stage. So, not only is he a great guy that's helped us out with funding, he's also a great networking kind of guy as far as, he's the Main Streets director, and he's also on the board at Stoneham Theater. So he was very excited about what we had to say and what we had going on. I talked to him about a PA. I talked to him about some other things. And he definitely gave indications that, and what I told him is that, we've done some one-off things, but we'd really probably like to see the Savings Bank as a consistent funding partner, and that rather than sponsoring individual events, we'd like to, sort of look at options to make them, partner with us in a more substantial way. What that means, really is just continue building the relationship and figure that out as we go. So, there's a financial contribution as well as a networking contribution that probably makes sense. We don't really know, but it was really just hey, you came here last year and you gave me a bunch of money to get PPE so we could run a show. Look what we've done since last year. His jaw was basically on the floor. He thinks the lights on the front of the building are the best thing ever. He says he drives by the building extra often now because he thinks it looks so amazing. He loves all the colors. That was just good to hear, from, and a lot of people I've been hearing that from. So he just loves the fact that the arches are extenuated or whatever, that you can kind of see the architecture of the building. He was just like, wow, this is totally way better and more awesome than I ever thought it was. Like, I knew it was here, but he's like, it just has a different resonance in my head. So yeah, very successful conversation with Bob at the Savings Bank. And I had some conversations with the town administrator today, as well as Bob. And we talked about some other things that are coming up. Just a couple items down on the agenda. Does anybody have any questions about any of those things? All right, keep going. We're making good time. We're making good time. Operations guideline. We had a workshop on Sunday. Emailed out a version of some guidelines that was like a real rough draft when we met on Sunday. I think we made some good progress on it. I rewrote and incorporated the feedback that we had on that. And got it out to everybody a couple days ago for people to look at. I think we smoothed out a lot of stuff, and we can either, talk about it now to whatever level of detail people are interested in, or we can schedule another workshop for people to look at it and then possibly, bring it back for, some sort of ratification or approval from the committee. And I'll throw that out to the audience here. Does anybody have any specific comments on the updated version of the operations manual, or do you think you want to take it to another workshop?
I'm thinking that we should switch this over to be a Google Doc. So then we can actually see what your revisions are. Because without looking at your original doc and then the doc from Sunday, it's a lot of looking to see what we talked about. So if we did a shared Google Doc, any changes that you make are highlighted so you can go right to that.
Oh, for future revision. That's an
Yeah,
interesting
because
idea.
I was at the
Future
meeting
revision.
and I'm looking at this and I'm like,
Is there anything particular at the meeting that you didn't see put in there? Because I'm pretty sure it's spot on for everything that we talked about. So, I mean, if there's an actual thing but if it's just, I don't remember, that's a little different than it's missing something.
Wait, who doesn't remember? I don't, or you don't?
You.
Okay, so for example, like I wanted you to say what we are.
Yeah.
Maybe I haven't had enough time to review this, what we're not versus what we are. I think there needs to be another meeting, just
Okay.
for the simple fact that
It's a workshop. Just it is because it's not a public
Okay.
meeting. It's a workshop. and then we
okay,
bring
it's
it
a
to the-
workshop. We
Okay.
need to have another workshop.
Okay, so I can agree. I'm good with that. Is anybody else?
Me too.
I agree.
I'm good.
All right.
Yeah.
So let's take that to a workshop, and then we can talk about it there, and then yeah, we'll figure that out.
If this is a solid start, absolutely.
Yes.
Yeah, and I like actually the revision. I think the revision's a lot better. The first thing, and I say this to lots of people is, remember I started out with a blank sheet of paper, so that was a pretty hard document to get to the point that it's at. And then
It is, isn't it?
I mean, it is, and the thing is, I think we get stuck a lot of times in the traps of old ways that people have done things, and we need to, work at this at sort of a really just kind of a higher, different level than I think that we've done it in the past, and hopefully we're heading towards that. But there's definitely some stuff to be talked about at a workshop.
Yep.
So we'll schedule that. Does anybody have any hard dates they need me to avoid on a workshop? Okay. Send me an email if you do.
Okay.
Okay, so operations guidelines, future events. Let's come through the first one. Let's go to ACW Winter Art Sale. Let's talk about that.
Oh, hang on, I'm lost here. Wait a minute. Okay. So yes, on December 11th and 12th, Saturday and a Sunday, the Arts Collaborative is promoting a winter art sale, and it is will be in the building from setups at 8. It opens at 10 and closes at 3 on both days. I'll be the primary point of contact. I'll be there both days. I'm actually going to go in the building probably this weekend and put up flyers in the windows, the lower level of the windows. And we have 15 people that for both days, not always the same people on both days. And as we only have 5 tables, many of the people are bringing their own tables, so we don't have to worry about schlepping too much up and down the stairs. So that's a good thing. I think that's it.
Okay.
Comments or questions?
Now, I think we've talked about it a bunch of times, and you guys have done it a bunch of times. So pretty much, as far as I can tell, I mean, maybe Tracy or Donna might have a question, but we've done this event enough times, and it's pretty much a self-sufficient event, right?
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't think there's really anything to beat up on it or really discuss it. It's been successful in the past, and my anticipation is that it'll be successful again. What I would say is that make sure somebody nags me and sends me lots of information so that we get you posted on the days of your events, and we get a little bit of hype going so that we can make sure that we incorporate your social medias and anything that you want to do with that on our stuff, so that we speak in parallel.
Yep. So we'll set the press release will be created this weekend to go out, and we'll send that to you, and it'll have all the information you need in it.
Okay. All right. Yeah, that works good. Anybody else have any questions on ACW? All right. Next one we have is, where's the next one? Bring the Good. So Bring the Good. This is a little bit of concept. What do you call it? Last year about this time is when we started talking about, and I did the show New Beginnings. We hadn't done anything for a while. And Bring the Good is sort of a follow-up to New Beginnings. It's out there. We've got it sort of specced out here. The document that I sent to everybody is largely presumptuous, is in that we wanted to talk about this a little bit. I think the the idea that I'm at least trying to bring and communicate to everybody, and I've been doing on a fairly regular basis, is this idea of us in being in an always on sort of stage. And by always on sort of stage, meaning we have stuff on the walls for a couple months at a time, so that we're not in sort of VFW and function hall mode that we used to be on, where we'd set up a show, break down a show, set up a show, break down a show. So the idea being that we could have stuff on the galleries for a longer term vision. As people and all on this call have known, that when you put up a show, it is a lot of work. So the idea of ripping it right down isn't super attractive after you spend a lot of time balancing your photos and beveling things and stuff like that. And with the when we did the New Beginning show and some of these other things since, and you just did the Square Work show and stuff like that, I think that we've seen success in having shows up for a longer time. So the idea behind this one was we had Arts Collaborative in, we've had some other folks in and done some stuff like to sort of fill the walls again for a time between sort of the Arts Collaborative stuff and sort of the cold days of winter, up until the event after that, which we'll talk about in a minute, Art and Edibles, which is something that we've had on our schedule for many years. And so the concept here is basically to fill the wall with big pieces. And you see there's in the document that was attached, there's a lot of event dates and the idea that there might be music or an open mic type thing. That's largely speculative at this point. The idea, though, of having our facility, open like we have with the Square Work show and these other shows of like every Friday night for like a month, where we set our stuff up, we have viewings by appointment when necessary, but we're showing stuff week to week and not setting up and breaking down and exhausting people. We are at a point where, outside of snow and weather concerns, that if we could be open on a bunch of sequential Friday nights or something like that, that it would make sense. At this point for this show, the idea would be need to do a little bit of call to artists and some other things. I've got like 7 or 8 people who would make good stuff for a show. But dealing with artists and a lot of people being artists themselves, that a lot of it doesn't always work out. So it's a matter of working with people and seeing when they can get their stuff in and if they can get their stuff in. But the concept for this show would be to post ACW, get some stuff up on the walls for January and February. Lots of sponsors and people I've communicated with as we've been doing our stuff to sponsor that. But basically during this time frame to fill the walls so that we could open, potentially say after Martin Luther King Day, one Friday a week, one Saturday a week, or one day a week, and then do stuff by appointment like we did last year. And also pending any COVID stuff that happens if the status of COVID changes. That's the whole point behind Bring the Good. It's supposed to be all about positivity, bright colors, and doing things to make it feel like it's not winter. And that's what I have here for people to talk about. Does anybody have any comments?
Yeah, I have a question. So one of the things that I sent you tonight, though I didn't send it in enough advance notice to have it actually included in tonight's agenda, is the ACW has come up with a couple of ideas of ways to get more people in the building, continue to promote the arts. One of them is actually trying to do like a first, I'm just arbitrarily picking this, a first Saturday of the month sale or winter market. And at one point, Anne Marie had talked about maybe wanting to do something like that. So I don't know how that gels with the plan for January and February. But I also see the Wakefield Farmers Market could be a sponsor here. So Chris, I ask you to take a look at what I sent you, though we didn't formally present it tonight, but there may be some synergy between that concept and where you're headed for the first quarter of the year next year.
Okay. And I think a lot of this stuff can be layered. And, as we go into a new method of it, the idea behind this is to layer it so that we have the walls filled, but that doesn't mean that other events can't happen sort of kind of simultaneously. It just means that, you'd have to figure out where people are at. So if you had vendors in or you were doing something inside the gallery, walls might be taken up, but there's still space in the middle, or there's still space in one particular section of the gallery or something like that. So yeah, there could be options there.
Yeah, I think so.
So for this year, you know, I'm going to move forward with this just on the idea of filling the walls with artwork, and work on curation for that. So, you know, my communication is to everybody of, you know, that's sort of, I'm going to work to see that we have stuff on the walls under this concept of bring the good, to make it so that we can have stuff available for people to see up until March. How exactly all the details go, that would be something that, you know, next in 30 days, as details fetch out and communications happen with people of, yep, you can go on the wall. You know, there'd be more stuff there. Again, a lot of this stuff is concept stuff. Another thing with the Bring the Good show, actually, when I talk about BJ, who talked about music and a PA system and being able to bring music there, one of the things that I talked to him about is I said, hey, if we can pull off some sort of version of this thing where we have stuff on the walls and we wanted to have musicians, because he runs a music school, could you send me people? You know, if I was open these Friday nights, which are listed on this thing, you know, starting after Martin Luther King Day for a bunch of Friday nights on a row, could he send me entertainment if we had the walls filled? And his answer was yes. So with the farmers market, they send people to the farmers market for like musical guests, like every week or whatever. The idea is that if, you know, depending on how this comes together, he could give me musicians on a Friday night so he can advertise, hey, come on down from 6 to 8, nothing super complicated, and listen to this musician or listen to that musician, talking about like one person or two people type situations, you know, COVID compliant, of course, with whatever the rules are at that point. But then we have two different draws. There's the idea of a draw for art on the walls, but then there's the musicians and people that will come to see them. So it's, you know, getting multiple points for people to come and visit. So, hey, are you here for something on the wall, or hey, are you here to see Jimmy sing? That sort of thing. And so he has agreed to that. He's excited about the place, gave us references on the PA and all that sort of stuff. And he's willing to, for January, February, or for really any other time frame that we're interested in, establish a relationship where he can provide us musicians so that we can have entertainment in our gallery on various days. Any more comments? All right, so barring any objections, I'm going to work to sort of fill the walls and see how things pan out here with some of the people that, we've been talking to, see if there's any music possibilities, that sort of stuff. Work with some of these people that have indicated that they'd be willing to sponsor stuff. Any more questions? All right, let's move on from that one. This next one that's on here, this is so Art and Edibles for 2022. A little bit of history on this. Art and Edibles sort of started when I was back doing work with the town, and we started doing this whole ACE thing, and we had stuff going together. The thing with the town, we were trying to promote restaurants and food, and the idea of eating in Wakefield, and basically everything to do with restaurants, eating and food and that sort of stuff. And we've had a couple of very successful events based on this, but it started off sort of as an incubation project within the town administrator's office about, you know, promoting this whole arts community collaboration kind of thing that we're doing with the ACE Center. And it was sort of in lieu of Restaurant Week. And so it says Tracy Shea's connecting. So it was in lieu of Restaurant Week because Wakefield's a little too small to have a Restaurant Week with the prefix dinners and the way that people standardly do Restaurant Week. So that's sort of how Art and Edibles kind of came to be. And I think the few shows that we did have were outstanding. There was one show that had Warhol type art. I believe at one point we had maybe Joe Gatto in. I don't know if he's part of Arts and Edibles. We, you know, various food things. We had the bread shop in that one time. They did their thing. Then you had the Arts and Edibles stuff. We had Paul Donaco doing his world famous limoncello demonstrations. I believe we had the Remedy Exchange in making smoothies at one of the Art and Edibles things. But the genesis of this was always from the town administrator's office, sort of to promote food and food culture. And, you know, as we finish this off, and I talk to the town administrator fairly frequently these days, just about the big projects and the big money and the big stuff that we're doing and the success that we've had. You know, we've talked about this idea of really bringing in some of the other groups. I mean, we've had the ACW a lot. We have all these people a lot, but there's always really been this fantasy land of, you know, how do we get, you know, the Main Streets Group and the Chamber of Commerce and the Arts Collaborative and the ACE Group and all these people to sort of play nice and all sort of have an event together. The proposal and stuff that you've seen is sort of a concept to try to accomplish that. I've been speaking to Anne-Marie a lot about this. We've been talking about it for about a year. I've focused in on her in the last month or so as to what's going on. I know the Arts Collaborative had some conversations about this as well, but I put together the proposal to sort of bring it back to its roots and really define out what we think about this. When I had Bob from the bank in there, I talked to him about that. Again, he's part of the Main Streets director, as well as a funding source of ours. Was speaking with Steve Mayo last night, today, and he is absolutely thrilled about this idea. He thinks this idea is great. He's actually promised us that we can have resources such as Aaron at his office, and a few, and other people on staff to help us out. And then the concept on this one is, yes, there's the Art and Edibles show, which would probably have a food type theme. But if you look in the document, it's to celebrate the love of food and food from different cultures with visual art, sculptures, food related information sessions when possible, highlight food and eating in Wakefield in general. A big sort of, not a change, but an addition that makes sense, especially with Anne-Marie being on our team now. And also being in charge of the farmers market, is to promote the farmers market and bring in some stuff with that. And we even talked about doing, winter farmers markets and stuff like that. That didn't work out in the past, but this would be a way to, to bring in the farmers market as well as the restaurants and stuff like that. Between the chamber and the Main Streets Group, they represent a lot of restaurants. When I worked with Steve in the town, we were never really concerned with who's a member of which organizations. We just wanted to promote generally Wakefield and eating and that sort of thing. And we're hoping that if all these people get on board, that everybody sort of plays nicely together, and that if we do this event in the longer format, which we've been doing events, we can have sort of different levels of teams between chamber and the town staff and Main Streets to support things that we need and to provide staffing. And it's going to require more orchestration and organization than we had in the past. But by having a member of the town administration staff that can help us with like the health department, if depending on where COVID is, if we're going to have food samples or if we're going to have anything that has to do with health department stuff for food, if that's even allowed at this point. It may be allowed, it might not be allowed. The event isn't determined whether on whether food's allowed or not allowed, because the concept of promoting food and culture and the eating of food is sort of the idea of where we want to go with this. Proposed dates are from like the beginning of March for setup through the middle of April. When we did Restaurant Week in the past and Art and Edibles, that was sort of the kickoff week of it. We try to promote this concept over the course of a month, but we focused in on a week. With our new space set up the way it is, and if we get a quality gallery event set up, the idea again would be not to go at it like hell for like 3 days in a row. Let's do it Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and all of us wear ourselves out. But it'd be more like, let's get the base event set up, and this Friday we do that, and the next Friday we do this. A piece of information that came up in conversation between Steve and I today regarding this was initially this thing says Friday nights. This is just a concept document. It has been well received, like I said, by the bank and by the town. Once a meeting happens, Friday nights might not be the night, but restaurants have tough time getting staff, and Friday nights could be a night. It depends on really how we integrate some of the food concepts. If food is coming over, maybe Friday nights make sense, but maybe it's like, hey, it's a Wednesday night one week, and Main Streets is really the influencer on that particular Wednesday night. The next week it's a Thursday night and it's the Chamber of Commerce that's taking the lead on promotion. The next week it's something else. But the idea is, food, chefs, restaurants, that sort of stuff, the farmers market, and then sort of, the next thing that makes it all really come together to make sure that we're inclusive of everybody in town is during the entire time we should most likely accept food for the food pantry. And then at that point, we have all the main groups in town, the Main Streets, the Chamber, the ACW, the ACE team, all of these people, the farmers market, the town administration, everybody playing nice together. It's really like the fantasy land of something we've been trying to put together for years. And now that our building's at a point that it's something that I think is worthy to take a stab at. There's a lot of details in here that could make the thing crash into a wall. But I think with the support of the local bank, the support, sort of some soft support so far of Main Streets, significant support from the town administrator's office, I think it definitely has a chance, and would be something that would be good for all the groups involved, as well as good for food in Wakefield and just good for Wakefield in general. Potential sponsors: Savings Bank, Remedy Exchange, Lori Hunt, I'm sure will come in, Farmers Market, Onset Music. We've got access to musicians. A lot of words just came out of my mouth. I'm tired of talking about it, but I open it up to the floor for feedback, comments, other stuff. Anybody?
Go for it.
So hearing no objections, I'm going to move this forward. To move it forward doesn't mean it's happening. To move it forward means that I am going to continue discussions with the town administrator. We've had some meetings on some other things that we need to talk about. So we're going to be doing a lot of communicating coming up, but they've already asked for a meeting actually today. And I said that we needed to have our conversation tonight before I could entertain a meeting. But I'm going to try to figure out a way to bring together some people for a think session on this that represent all of these groups. It is a stitch of work, but I think with the town administration support and the idea that we're unifying a lot of groups, I think it's really tight to our mission, and will be well received by many of the people who don't know about it yet. Opening for any other comments on that, Gary? Yeah, there's a lot of to be determined on there, but I think what I was hearing from Steve and what I was hearing from Bob today was the concept is sound, the details are a little challenging, but not anything that we can't overcome. All right, so I'm going to move that forward. That's that one. Art blooms. I have that in a document. I didn't send it forward. Let's just see where we get in another month or two. My guess is that if we are successful with art and edibles in all the grandiose ways that I just described it, that most likely Anne Marie, myself, and other people will be so exhausted that we won't even be caring about art blooms. We just won't be interested. The idea that we could do it is fantastic. Hey, let's do a flower show. Let's do this. And there's a lot of details that could happen there, but we've got 2 or 3 other good ideas ahead of it. So really no promises on art blooms other than we've sketched it out into a document. And if it seems like it makes sense, we'll do it. But, prior to pandemic, what we had going on that was working for us was we sort of had 3 teams. Like I would do a show with a couple people, then Arts Collaborative would do a show, and then Joy would come in and do a show with the high school. And we sort of had 3 teams kind of going because, what happens is after you do a show, and you all know this because you've done it, you're exhausted and you just don't want to do a show for a while. And then you come back.
Burn out.
Yeah, so we had the teams, and it was like I said, I would do something, then Arts Collaborative would do something, the high school would do something, and then we'd repeat, and the person would be ready. So building up, these series of teams of like, all right, I'm going to do something and work with some people now, and then hopefully when I'm exhausted, the Arts Collaborative comes and does something for a little while, and then when they're exhausted, the next group comes and does something for a while. But we try to like do these things that are, a minimum of 30 days, but more likely like 60, 90. Maybe even 120, depending on what we have on the walls. And we always have that always on mode going, but we have the ability to layer other things inside of it. So that's our blooms.
Some of those other things, Chris, the other thing that I sent you tonight, again, pending, a more formal presentation to the group, is the idea of maybe on a weekend, opening up the building, I'm sorry, let me back up. The idea of having the opportunity for artists to come in and actually just have a couple of hours to be in the building and hang out with one another, dry medium only, probably, no paint, but just to be together and to get people in the building on a periodic and regular basis so people know that, and again, making it up, that every Wednesday from 10 to 12, the building is open pending that there isn't some other event that would preclude it. And then maybe there'd be an evening time too on, every Monday night or once a month on, the first Monday of the month, the building would be open for local artists to come in and spend some time together in a loosely structured situation where, maybe there would be a small, someone could do a demo, or someone could, put up a still life and people could do drawing or something. So, that, I think when you talk about the layers, those are some of the things that the ACW is trying to find some ways to be able to, get people in the building and leverage arts. So it'll be interesting to see where some of these ideas all come together and where the synergies are.
Okay. Anybody have any more comments on that? Or- Okay, cool. I have spring acapella listed down next. I talked to Anna once or twice. We were going to try to do an acapella thing in December. It looked like we might be able to do it. That got canceled a month or two ago. She says she'll be ready for the spring. So when I find out what that means, I'll let you know. Item after that is a joy item. We've got, high school shows, and I believe you have a May date picked out. And after Art and Edibles, I think it's really, we need to talk to Joy about structuring stuff, however that stuff's going to be structured. You want to talk about that, Joy, at all?
Well, the only thing is that I don't have the in on that anymore. I'm not saying that I'm not going to do it, but I don't know.
Okay. Yeah, so it's out there. I mean, I think another month or two, once we figure out what's going on with stuff that we've already talked about, we'll make projections for that. If that happens, great. If it doesn't, we'll figure out something else. But, starting to think about the idea of what to do in the summer. It'd be great to have a show set up for the summer. So again, that we're in always on mode. So whenever Art and Edibles shuts down, we do something else, and we do something else, and we've got it open so that we can be open, more nights, more times during the month. And, all the other stuff that we talked about, we can figure that out. Nothing really of substance. These other things are just other rephrases of stuff we've talked about before in placeholders. Number 8, artist challenge. Something I think we can talk about at another meeting. We're sitting at 8:12, so we're at 63 minutes into this meeting. My new promise to everybody is to be done in 75 minutes or less for any of these meetings, 60 minutes or so if we can. If somebody wants to talk about any artist challenge or anything like that, I think I brought that in. I don't have anything to talk about on that. Art on the Highway is another one. Nothing new to talk about on there. It's not on the forefront, sitting there as a placeholder. And one last thing I want to mention, that I am talking to, waiting for a response back actually from the Linfield Arts Guild. They'd sent in a request. They have a show that they want to do at some point coming up. I don't have any details about that. We need to look at our operations manual as to how we want to work with people. I think it's within the realm of things that we want to do. We just need to, between Linfield and even the Reading, there's a Reading one that has invited me to their place a couple times. They're regional stuff. We're a regional place. We're not a Wakefield only place. So it'll be good to think about ways that we can include those folks, or maybe even include them sort of as, with the arts collaborative type thing. Maybe there's stuff where all of us can work on something. Maybe as I have a conversation with them, maybe they do something with Art and Edibles, and I don't really know what their show is, but I think that because we're getting lots of press, lots of people are starting to reach out because a lot of people want what we've got now, which is why we've got our new operations manual coming together. So I'll continue. I'll give you an update on anything with the Linfield Arts Guild as that conversation progresses as far as things go. That's about it. That's on here. Last one's unanticipated topics. If anybody has anything that they want to talk about. And then if not, we go to adjournment. All right, hearing none. I'm gonna make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
So moved.
All right, we are all done.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful evening.